Hello, bonjour, 你好，Anio, hola， 我是你的 boy CP。Hello，
Get that garbage out of here!
What's good everybody, this is CP and welcome back to my NBA fantasy series. In my last videos, I helped identify potential sleepers and undervalued players that have a chance to break out or outplay their draft positions. If you want to equip yourself with 30 potential undervalued players to add to your watch list, make sure you check out the playlist with the links below. Today I'll be talking about fantasy players you should avoid drafting in the Eastern Conference. Now, to clear things up, I don't think we should completely avoid drafting any fantasy player. Instead, it's more about drafting for value and maximizing your return on every pick. For example, in a non-dynasty or a non-keeper league, if a player like LeBron or Giannis is available in the 3rd round, you should draft them every time. On the other hand, it's probably not a good idea to take Lonzo Ball if a player like Steph Curry or Russell Westbrook is still available. With that said, let's take a look at several players who I think you should avoid reaching for too early in your drafts this year, as their fantasy value has potential to take a hit or gradually go down this season. So without further ado, let's get it. Jayson Tatum had a very impressive rookie season, averaging around 14 points, 5 rebounds, and 1 steal per game. He stepped up in a big way for the Celtics in the playoffs and was a huge reason why Boston was 1 game away from making the NBA Finals. However, we can't forget that the Celtics lost Gordon Hayward 5 minutes into last season and Kyrie missed the entire playoff run as well. So in a sense, Tatum's fantasy stats might have been a bit inflated. With Gordon Hayward coming back into the lineup, I'm not sure if Tatum will average 36 minutes a night like he did in the playoffs. And adding Kyrie into the mix, there are only so many shots to go around, so I think the 13.7 field goal attempts he averaged will likely go down as well. On top of that, Tatum impressively averaged 43.4% from beyond the arc during the regular season, and quite frankly, I have a hard time seeing him sustain those numbers. To put things into perspective, Klay Thompson has a career average of 42.2% from beyond the arc, and he is considered one of the best shooters of all time. And since everyone in the league knows that Tatum can shoot, they probably won't let him get away with as many good looks this season. Yahoo currently has Tatum ranked 45th overall, which is even higher than Gordon Hayward. So I think people might be overhyping Tatum because of his playoff performance. They are also overlooking the fact that Boston expects Hayward and Kyrie to be major contributors on the floor this year. Overall, there is just too much uncertainty taking Tatum that high, and there is a good chance that he will not be able to live up to expectations. Rozier is another Boston Celtic you should think very carefully before drafting this year. He had a spectacular 2017-18 and looked like a legit starting point guard for the Celtics during their playoff run. But much like Jayson Tatum, I don't think Scary Terry's fantasy stats will live up to his playoff hype. Rozier saw extended time on the floor in the postseason and averaged close to 37 minutes a night, meanwhile putting up 16.5 points and close to 6 assists per game. As good as he can be, there's no way Boston can give him the same type of opportunities when Uncle Drew returns to the lineup. At best, I can see him putting up slightly better numbers than the 11 points, 4.7 rebounds, and 3 assists he averaged in the regular season, and he can be a borderline top 140 fantasy player, but with very little upside to crack the top 100. Unless Kyrie goes down again with another major injury or if Rozier gets traded, I can't see him being an attractive target on draft day, as the Celtics have too many scoring options and limited touches to go around. Blake Griffin is another player who will likely not be high on my watch list on draft day. He wasn't spectacular in the 25 games he played for the Pistons last year, and compared to his stats in LA, we saw a decrease in points, field goal percentage, and rebounds in Detroit last season. It's fair to say that Griffin's game has changed a bit over the last few years. He is not as athletic as he used to be and is taking more jump shots than ever. Some may argue that he is a more complete basketball player now, but in fantasy terms, he is a far cry from being the top tier power forward he once was. As a power forward, I don't think he gives his owners decent value in important categories like blocks, rebounds, and field goal percentage. He only averaged 0.4 blocks over the last 3 years, and his rebounding average has gradually declined since his rookie season, from 12.1 to only 6.6 in 2018. And his field goal percentage was at a career low of 43.3% last season. On top of all that, health looks to be a concern for Griffin as well. He will be turning 30 and he hasn't played more than 67 games in a single season since 2013-14 and was only limited to 58 games last year. So if you want a big man with upside, I think taking Griffin with the 42nd pick is a bit pricey, considering that there are so many other options out there with more upside that could be had with a lower pick. For example, Yahoo has Aaron Gordon ranked 44th, Lauri Markkanen at 50, Dario Saric at 57, and Miles Turner at 60. Tyreke Evans had a very impressive bounce-back season in 2018, averaging 19 points, 5 assists, and 5 rebounds a game. It's fair to say that he rejuvenated his career, and based on his stats alone, I think some people might reach for him earlier than they should this year. But if anything, there's a great chance that his numbers could see a 10 to 20% decrease from a season ago, mainly because he played on a much less talented Memphis team last season, which inflated his numbers across the board. The Grizzlies gave Tyreke 31 minutes a night, backing up Mario Chalmers and Ben McLemore. Evans also averaged a career-high 28% usage rate and took almost 16 field goal attempts a night, but this season he'll be suiting up for a much better Indiana Pacers team and backing up better players in Victor Oladipo and Darren Collison, so it is unlikely that Evans will get the same type of opportunities to fill up the stat sheet this season. Realistically speaking, I can see his numbers go down to around 15 points, 4.5 rebounds, 4 assists, and around 25 minutes a night. He is currently ranked 106th overall, and taking him there is fair, but you shouldn't expect him to significantly outplay his draft position like he did in Memphis. But if his playing time is limited, he might even fall out of the top 120. The only way I can see Tyreke breaking the top 75 is if Victor Oladipo goes down with a major injury, but nothing is guaranteed, so I'd rather spend my draft pick elsewhere. Brook Lopez decided to take his talents to Milwaukee this summer and signed a 1-year $3.3 million deal with the Bucks. Overall, this is a low-risk, high-reward deal for Milwaukee, as they think a player like Lopez may be able to help them improve their front court this year. But we can't forget that Lopez is coming off a very disappointing season. He averaged a career low of 13 points and 4 rebounds in 2018, and it was the first time in 8 seasons that we have seen him average less than 17 points a game in a single season. Fantasy-wise, there are a lot of red flags with Brook Lopez, as we have seen a gradual decline in his field goal percentage, blocks, and rebounds for the past 4 seasons, and he will be turning 31 next year, so there's a good chance that his production will continue to dip. And if you look at their lineup, the Bucks already have plenty of depth at the center position, with younger players like John Henson, Thon Maker, and Tyler Zeller all competing for minutes, so it remains to be seen whether Lopez is able to hang on to the starting position all year. He is also playing with high usage players like Giannis and Eric Bledsoe, so we should expect Lopez to be the 3rd or 4th option, and it is very unlikely that he can be a 20-8 player in Milwaukee. According to Yahoo, he is ranked 85th overall, but with his game on the decline and an unfavorable situation in Milwaukee, his fantasy stock might fall out of the top 100 by the end of next year. If you need a big man at that range, I personally think you will be able to get better value by passing on Lopez at 85 and be better off with a pick like Yusuf Nurkic, Taj Gibson, or Jarrett Allen instead. Kawhi Leonard was part of the blockbuster deal that sent DeMar DeRozan to San Antonio this summer. Heading into 2017-18, there are a lot of question marks surrounding Kawhi and how he will pan out in Toronto, which makes him one of the riskiest second-round picks in fantasy basketball this year. Best case scenario, he picks up from where he left off in 16-17 and is one of the best two-way players in the NBA again. Assuming that his quad injury isn't a concern, there is still some uncertainty in how Leonard will conduct himself as a member of the Raptors. It was reported that he was healthy enough to play for the Spurs last season but decided to sit out for whatever reason, so there is always a chance that he can pull the same thing in Toronto this year. Overall, no one can predict how good or bad Kawhi's value will be for his fantasy owners this upcoming season. When in doubt, we should either lower our expectations or simply stay away. According to Yahoo, he is ranked 13th overall, which makes him an early second round pick in most 12-team leagues. And as much as I like his game and know what he's capable of doing, there's just too much risk and speculation involved to justify spending such a high pick on him. So to ensure my return on investment at the 13 to 18 range, I would probably go for a safer pick and use it on a player like Chris Paul or Paul George instead. So that's a look at some players in the Eastern Conference you should be careful about drafting too early this year. Feel free to let me know if you agree or disagree with any of these picks. And if you have been enjoying my NBA fantasy videos, please show me some love by liking, sharing, or subscribing. That's it for now. I'll see everybody next time.